a conversation about relationship, in this context about marriage. So I'm your man, Alfam Shahiri, a relationship coach, and I love to be in this Thursday. And in this Thursday, I have termed this particular series of Thursday the Exodus Way to a Purposeful Marriage. And when I talk about the Exodus Way to a Purposeful Marriage, it has nothing to do with you exiting a marriage to another one. It is actually about a spiritual transformation that one moves from bondage to freedom. Freedom in a sense that we are experiencing marriage as you wish it to be. There's a lot of conversation of what that means and everything else, and I try to break it down each and every moment that I show up on this Thursday. I know I figure this is the best time to do so because most people are at home after a long day. Maybe you're ready to eat or just you can catch up with things. And I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to be able to do it very fast. I'm just going to probably do it for 30 minutes and trying to keep up with that time. That being said, let's go to the question of the day. Today, I'm answering a very simple question. And the question is, how do you know it's time to get married? How do you know it's time to get married? I want to go quickly into share a story. I remember it was about early 2008. I remember it very vividly. And it was a day that I just moved to a new place with a couple few of my roomies. And we were just kind of busy moving things in. Everybody's kind of bringing stuff into the house. And my best friend at the time, very good friend of mine, who became my best friend as my wife later, was helping me to move into that space. And like everybody else, I mean, my other two roommates had their other people helping them. For me, it was my best friend, who now is my best friend and my wife as well. But at the time when this movement was happening, she was in a relationship. I was in a relationship. It just happened that both of the relationship were distance relationship. And so therefore, together as good friends, we were accompanying each other. Now, no funny business, nothing. Very respectful of each other's relationship. So having that situation play out, in that day, I remember, as I was kind of grabbing stuff out of, we have dumped everything in the living room and everybody's taking what is theirs and bring it up to the rooms. And then I'm taking my stuff and I kind of went up to the stairs, bringing some few things into the room. And as I stepped at the door, she was sitting, actually folding my clothes. Those needed to be folded. She was putting there was a night dresser, she was putting in drawers, and those needed to be hanged. She was putting in a hanger and hang neatly on a closet. And I stood there for a minute and I had a flashback, if I call it. And the flashback was very interesting. It took me to a time and place when I was young. I grew up in East Africa, Tanzania. And those days in the house that I grew up, there was only one mirror in the house. And the mirror was in my parents' bedroom at their closet. So I had a teacher who inspired me to learn English. She was always demanding more of me in terms of English subject. So therefore, I had to figure out a way to be ahead of the class so that I can always impress her. Yes, I liked her, not in a way that many people might think. It's just that the way she presented herself, she carried herself, the character she portrayed in the class just kind of made me, I didn't want to fail her. I just want to continue her or disappoint her. I wanted to show up as a student she believed me to be. So she encouraged me or challenged me in some form. And the way that I was able to do things outside the class is constantly I will go before the mirror in the house and pretend. I play this game, I call it pretense game. I pretend I was in the United States, walking in the streets in different states. I had New York and some other, Miami and all of that stuff. I will be walking, pretending that I'm talking to some people in the US. It was very interesting. I mean, and I'll have this conversation. People ask about my accent and everything else. But that routine conversation grew a little bit more than just a straight conversation. Occasionally, I used to see myself or play this picture. I was in the kitchen interacting with a beautiful female. I never saw her face, but it was just a picture that I could see, and I will interact, we'll laugh, I will play with her. But the unique aspect of that relationship that I played in my mind before the mirror was the fact where I grew up, we had a house girl. We call a house girl, you call a maid probably. And in a house girl, we had a house girl for everything. We had a house girl for cooking and cleaning. We had a house girl for this and that. We had about 2-3 house girls. I dropped something, so I'm going to grab it. So these house girls, having these house girl, I was not allowed to be in the kitchen. My dad said, I pay these house girls to cook, to prepare a meal for you. So guess what? I expect you to be able to study at all times. That's how my dad, he was an old school person. He made his life, he was able to succeed. He grew up in a village with no shoes and went to school and worked at a tea farm. And he was able to go to school. He got a job. He went to study at the University of Texas for his master's. He returned. He got a better job, and he was living his best life. And the only reason he was able to do so, it was obvious. He went to school. So for us, he was emphasizing school is the key for everything. And for that reason, and here, for those who are just joining here, I'm answering a question that was asked. How do you know when it's time to get married? How do you know when it's time to get married? And the second question is, how do you know he's the right person? So a viewer and a reader asked this question. So I want to answer it through the scripture context. How do you know it's time to get married? And when do you know? And how do you know he is the right person? That's the question I'm answering. And I'm sharing a story of mine, that how I knew it was time. So that is the conversation we're having it today. And in this particular moment, as I'm standing before the room, watching this good best friend of mine folding my clothes and neatly hanging some of them and helping me out through arranging my bedroom, I am in this, I kind of travel in time, and I'm seeing this picture playing out in my mind, me imagining myself being with this woman. And this picture happened I'm in Minnesota at this moment, standing, and this picture happened way back in Tanzania, East Africa, in the city of Dar es Salaam. So that picture is playing out, and I'm thinking, wow. And I remember, and as that picture was playing out, remember there was a woman that was playing in my mind that I played with her a lot, conversed with her. And suddenly I had a memory of the conversation I used to have with this young, beautiful, sexy lady in those imaginary moments. And I could relate those conversations with this best friend of mine who was in the room helping me arrange my bedroom. And that memory was like, wow, this is strange. And suddenly I knew she is the one. She was still a best friend. We were not dating, nothing. But I knew she is the girl because I already had a picture of her long time ago. That's the key. So how is that relating to this question? How do you know when it's time to get married? And for me, when I realized she's the one, it was the same moment I know this is the woman to marry. And so therefore, we only dated for about 4 months and we got married. I proposed about the second month, 4 months later, we got married. That's how fast. I didn't waste no time because I knew she is that girl that I used to converse with. And I knew what it means to marry her because I played that picture in my mind over and over and over. So let's get to the scriptures and identify what the scripture is teaching us. And I wanted to talk about, because I talk about this story of the children of Israel, how they came to Egypt and got out of Egypt, and how that relates to you as a person who seeks, in this case, get married. And we are looking at, I think it's Genesis 42. In that passage of Genesis, there is a conversation. Again, for those who are just joining us, the question of this day is, when do you know it's time to get married? And there was a second question that was a follow-up question. How do you know he is the one? And that's and I'm answering it based on a biblical story. And how can you decipher that and apply that in your life if such a question has been lingering in your mind? And in this case, this story, we are told Jacob, who had 10 sons, and one of his sons, his name is Joseph, was in Egypt, but 10 of them were with him. And he's talking to them and he said, why are you sitting here? Because I heard in Egypt, guess what? There is grain for sale. You must get yourself up and go to Egypt so that we do not die, because we need that grain. He is having a conversation with his children. There are 10 of them. That's what the scripture tells us. And he's commanding them to go to Egypt where they sell grain. How is that relating to your question of whether it is time and when is that time to get married? The answer lies in that story. Not only that, the answer, but the secret of that answer is also within the very same scripture. In this conversation, Jacob, we know, he is later known as Israel, a man who fought God and man and won. You are the very Jacob today. You are asking this question. You are in a place where it feels it has been comfortable for a while. You are single, or maybe you are dating somebody and things has been okay. But it comes to a moment where there is a stirring inside of you. As Jacob, it was okay where they were, and suddenly famine entered the land. And as they were struggling, trying to measure everything they consume, he's sitting there, and therefore he wonders, why are you sitting here? While I heard, so they use the word I heard, there is grain for sale in Egypt. Egypt, in my book, the Exodus Within, breaking free from mental bondage, Egypt is a place of bondage. It's a place where we go with hope of something greater. But if we don't know how to apply ourselves there, guess what? We become slave on that environment. And marriage is the very essence of it. A lot of people get into marriages and they find themselves in bondage. They are slaving. To slave is to do more, but you get less. You are not given equal to the work you're doing. And that's what the story of Exodus is telling us about Egypt. It's a place where the children of Israel, they labored harder later after Joseph died, but yet they were not given back equal amount of compensation of that which they labor. And a lot of people who are in marriages, or they will tell you that there is such measure is happening in their relationship where one feels that they're giving too much, they're doing too much, but they're not getting back in return. And that is a pure explanation of what Egypt is. So if you're married today and you're listening to this, and in your marriage, things doesn't seem to be equal, not equal in a sense of saying, I'm paying for this and he's paying for this, or she's paying for this and I'm paying for that. Oh, no. The equal is you're not getting the level of intimacy, the level of respect, the level of love that you had expected to have to experience when you enter that marriage. That is Egypt, my dear. You are in Egypt. You are in a place where you went in hope for fulfillment, but you got disappointment. And in this series that I'm going to take it through each and every Thursday, we are talking more of that. But today I'm answering a different question. So keep tuning in, even if maybe this is not pertaining to you, so that you can learn. And you're not going to learn how did you get into this place. So returning back to this question, Jacob is actually talking now to his sons. He said, I heard that there is grain in Egypt. So there is a need for sustenance. Jacob and his family recognize that they need more than what they have. And it is that moment where he recognized that after recognizing that, he's speaking of a place called Egypt, where he heard there is grain for sale. So he's referencing a place and what that place offers. The question to you is, in order for you to know whether this is the time to get married, whether you are in a relationship or you are looking for one, the real question is what Jacob asked his kids. Why are you sitting here? So why are you getting comfortable with not having the marriage you want? There will be a stirring inside of you. You will just come to a moment where you're like, I would love to take this relationship further. I would love to be in a relationship that's going somewhere. When that steering is happening, most people either they settle with it because I don't want to ask, I don't want to look like I'm nagging, they settle. And that's the wrong approach according to these scriptures. The scripture says, Jacob asked his sons, why are you sitting here? So why are you sitting when you have that steering inside? Steering that says, man, I would love to have companionship. I would love to be in a relationship that actually materializes to a marriage. That question, when it starts lingering in you, that is the time when you know it's time to get married. But how do you then go to be married from that moment to that point where maybe your partner is not ready? They're telling you, I'm not ready. But Jacob gives us a formula. He said, I heard in Egypt there is a grain for sale, meaning that I heard somewhere there is a sustenance that will fulfill my hunger. What are you hearing? Are you hearing that men are not, they don't like to get married? That's what you're hearing and you're entertaining? Are you hearing that women nowadays, you can't marry them? They're always demanding. What are you hearing? Joseph heard that which he wanted to sustain his hunger, to fulfill his hunger. The hunger he had, they needed grain to be healthy, to sustain their health. Your hunger is companionship. Your hunger is intimacy, a sense of belonging, a sense of being loved in a place and cherished, supported. That's your hunger. So, what are you hearing in the midst of your hunger? Jacob gives us a formula. He heard. You have a choice to hear. You can hear all the negative things that are happening about relationship. Oh, marriage don't last long. Oh, people don't get married nowadays. Oh, all of those things are true. But if you choose to hear them, you are not hearing that which fulfills your hunger. So therefore, you will not be able to go towards that experience in a meaningful manner. And if you end up getting married, you are getting married in trouble because you are hearing the wrong thing. Remember the story I shared with you earlier, the story about me seeing my wife. I used to see her in my mind when I was young, having conversation with her. So in an essence, when the time came, it could be said, I heard she is the one because I've already seen her. We had conversation. Not only that, we've had conversation for a few months that I've known her as a good friend of mine. We have interacted even more. And I've learned things that I'm like, wow, I would love. But at that time, I couldn't because she was in a relationship and I was in one. So we became just good friends. So today, the question that actually takes you to where it's time to get married is, what is stirring inside of you? What hunger do you have? Do you have hunger for a fulfilling relationship, a hunger for more than what you're having, a hunger for a companionship, a hunger? That hunger is the determinant of whether it is time or not. If your hunger is for something else, guess what? How can you even be able to partake? You can't. So your hunger determines what is the time for. So the question, in order to answer the question whether this is the moment or not, is the hunger you have. What are you hungry for as where you are? And I'm not asking whether people are getting married. I'm not paying attention. Jacob did not concern himself with how many people are hungry. He did not concern himself how many countries are running to Egypt to get grain. He did not concern of any of that. He was primarily concerning of the need that was with him. He needed to feed his family. He needed grain for his family to be able to enjoy a healthy life. And he is asking his children, what are you doing here? And the question is you, what are you doing? And why are you doing what you're doing? Is it consistent with the hunger you have? So if the hunger is for a marriage, because maybe your parents told you, and it's okay. These have nothing to say that if your parents are pressing on it, it's a bad time. No, because they might be steering that hunger. As long as the hunger, despite of the pressure outside, the hunger continue, then guess what? It is the time. So the time is not determined with the society. You are the determinant. Never look for anybody to tell you what is the time. What are you feeling? Do you feel this is the time? Are you hungry for that? And that hunger is the determinant. As Joseph said, what are you doing here? So that's a key point. And once you answer that question, then you have the answer. I'm hungry. I am hungry that I need to be loved. I'm hungry. I want to be in a relationship that is You name it. Remember how specific Jacob was. He said, there is a place I heard is called Egypt. They have grain and they have it for sale. Which means in order to get the grain from Egypt, they need to have the necessary resources that is equal for the portion they want to acquire. So it was a place where they have to have something in order to get that which they want. So when you say, it is time for me to get married, the question is, what do you have? And this question we see is playing so many places. God is asking, Moses is asking this. What do you have in your hand? What do you have in your mind? Because that which you have in your mind will determine the quality of exchange you will have in terms of the relationship or marriage. So I have a client who, she always thought that relationship will always end bad because that's what she experienced, she saw through her parents. And growing up, she had relationship that did not end up very well. So she concluded relationship will always end bad. And she hated the story of Cinderella. Every time she heard it, she get angry about it because it was not consistent with her experience. So guess what? That is what she heard. When she had a hunger for marriage, guess what she heard? She heard the relationship doesn't end well. That's what she heard. And therefore, she went to Egypt, which isn't a marriage, a place of limitation, but she went with a limited perception. What she had in her hand is marriage doesn't last or doesn't go well. That's what she had in her mind. And if that's what she went with, that is the currency she had to exchange while she went to Egypt, meaning that is what you are going to get in a relationship. So therefore, the first marriage went bad after a few years. The second, the third, when I met her, she was on her fourth marriage. And she's at that time, she's already grown older, and things were not going well. And she was wondering how it doesn't make sense. She have had 3 men that she married with, and each and every one of them didn't end well. So in our conversation, she kept telling me some things that I'm like, okay. I'm like, where did you get this narrative relationship doesn't end well? And of course, she shared the story, her parents, her friends, and her experience growing up. And so therefore, she had a conclusion in her mind that relationship doesn't end well. That is what she heard. Even though she wanted a relationship, but she had this assumption that relationship never end well, and therefore they never ended well. While Jacob asked, he said, I heard of Egypt. They sell grain. Not only they sell grain, they have grain. Not only they have grain, they sell it. And he said, you better go and buy grain because we need it for sustenance. It is important what ideas you have about marriage in your mind, because those ideas will determine the quality of marriage you will find yourself into. The problem is not the marriage. The problem is the ideas we hold about the marriage, about the relationship. If you have a relationship, you had this concept, you've heard it over and over. Men are dogs, women are bitches. And this is the narrative you've always saying it over and over. You didn't intend to marry a person who is like a dog. Dog is humping everything else. So guess what? If your husband or your partner is start humping everything else, you're going to start asking, what value have you heard? What have you heard? Because you can only exchange in Egypt the value you have and the quality you're going to get. Whatever value you have, that's the quality you're going to get. And in the book of Psalms, we're told, as a person thinketh, so is he. Very, very important. So now we've answered the question, when you know it's time to get married. You know the time to get married when there's a stirring inside of you. But when that stirring is happening, you have to evaluate what you have in hand. Because you don't want to just go to Egypt. You just want to jump in a marriage because somebody told you or because somebody said, I want to marry you. You have to ask yourself, what value do you have? And value is not about you go to church, you pray, you are a singer, you are a bishop, you are a pastor, or whatever. None of that matters here. The values is questioning about, as the scriptures reveal, when Jacob said, I know Egypt, I hear they have grain, and they sell it. The selling aspect is the key here. What do you know about marriage? Meaning that not that you don't know about marriage, what do you believe about marriage? What assumptions you have about marriage? I'm not gonna say, but it's a very close person in my life. But she had come to these terms that men will always cheat. That's what she came to terms. So she wanted to get married, but she conceded to the idea that her men will cheat. And oh boy, that man is not even a dog. I think dogs have at least some, maybe, I think. I don't know much about dogs, but I think dogs have a little bit of a balances. They have, maybe they can try to hump that one or that. But this guy he just, whatever skirt passes before him, he wanted. And for years, she suffered. She wanted a marriage. She was hungry. There was a stirring inside of her. And she said, I want to get married. But she had this idea. The value she had is the idea, the assumption that men will always cheat. And it's okay if they cheat. That's the assumption she had. And she had a reason to do so because she had experienced it. And she had been a victim of such, where some relationship in the past, she was cheated. And she herself had a relationship or affair with a married man at some point in her life. So there was this narrative she had. That's what men are. So consistent with the value or the narrative she had, she entered into a marriage. And that marriage gave her back that which she was looking for. So all I'm saying here, as you ask yourself this question, apply the formula that Jacob applied. He didn't only just talk about that we are hungry, and he didn't focus on the hunger. He focused on the solution. I heard of a place called Egypt. They have grain and they have it for sale. So you have to say, in an essence, if I was single, I'd say, yeah, I'm interested in a marriage that is of this quality. When I was picturing my wife, when I was young, playing this imaginary game, I was picturing her as a very supportive, respectful, fun, and I was having fun with her. My parents, I never saw them playing and laughing, so I couldn't have learned it from them. It was just something inside of me, and that's the picture I had. So in my relationship as a friend with her, we had those moments of fun and laughing. We were enjoying, even though we were not dating. And so there, when the moment came, I recognized her that she's the one. Simply because I had a picture. I heard her. I kind of knew the nuances, that the conversation nature, the laugh we were having. And she was giving all of that to me. So it was obvious she's the one. So today, the first question you ask before you embark in a journey, whether this is the right time or not, is what have you heard? What do you know? What do you remember about relationship? What do you remember about marriage? And then define it very clearly. But I want you to let you know that you have the power to define and hear that which you want to hear. For me, I didn't see my parents doing that, but I chose to see me and this girl who, in my mind, she was my wife, as people who were playing to each other. We're having fun, we are loving, we are laughing, we are joking. And today my marriage is filled with all those stuff. There's no seriousness. Yes, we have a serious moment sometimes here and there, but we can play. I play with her, we are joking, we are laughing, because it's the nature that I created. I brought that value in my mind as I enter into a marriage with her. And therefore, that value became the currency that sustains me in this relationship. And I'm experiencing the fullness of that. In the New Testament, we are told that God will shake it down, shake it over, pressing it down, and overflow. You will get, if your value you're bringing is that marriage is miserable, you will get a press over, overflow, shake it down, press over. You will get all of that. So misery is not because your husband is a bad person, not because your wife is a bad person. It's because of the currency. What value have you brought into this relationship? Yes, and that person could be the right person to do it because that's the value you brought. So you're going to trade with a person who actually is capable of doing that. If you thought that there's a tribe in East Africa, in Tanzania, where they believe if you're married and you're loved, a man have to hit you. That's a belief. I don't know nowadays if it's the case. I couldn't marry to that tribe, no matter how beautiful, how kind the person is, because I do not subscribe to that. So I am not the person that will attract me to marry a woman from that tribe, because I'm not going to do that. But there's somebody else who have the capacity to do it, will be the right candidate to marry that woman, because that woman will get a whoop, because that's what she wants, because that's the belief system that they have. And as long as she's bringing into that marriage, she will get it. And so therefore, we are always getting that value that we bring. And we're told in the story, as they went to Egypt, they were exchanging. They brought value in exchange for the grain. So whatever you have in your mind is the value of exchange that you will have in this marriage. Let's go to the second question quickly. The second question is he the one? One of the reader of my book asked the question, how do you know if he is the one? We can flip the same question and say, how do you know if she is the one? And I'm going to go back to the same scriptures. But I want to return back to my story. As a child, I had images and pictures that I played of a woman that would be my wife. It was an imaginary act, but it was real to me as I played it in my mind. And it wasn't like I was intending this, but it's something I played for quite a period of time. Of course, it was intending for me to learn English, because I grew up in Tanzania, East Africa, and English was a second language, is not a primary language. Swahili is. So in order to learn, I had to practice. And I was practicing with this beautiful lady in my mind. We have conversation, we laugh, we joke, and do all kinds of things. So I created a memory of a person. And that's why when I saw her folding my clothes as a friend who was helping me, at the time I had a girlfriend that we were very serious, and she had a boyfriend they were very serious. And actually, there was a conversation of my girlfriend to come and live with me at some point. That's how far I was going. But this is the friend who was in my bedroom, helping me to fold my clothes. And I looked at her and I had a memory. That memory that I created as a young man came back. And I could see she was the woman in my memory. The characteristic, the quality she displayed, she was the woman. And therefore, I knew she was the one, even though we were not yet proclaim our love for each other. I knew that without shadow of the doubt. Other women before her had asked me if I want to marry them, or they would love to get married. There have been those conversations, but none of them gave me that appetite of feeling that. And they were not ugly women either. They were beautiful women and amazing women in their own way. So sometimes I want to tell you something, ladies. If somebody refuses or rejects you or not marrying you, it's not because of something wrong with you. It is because they have created an image somewhere along their lives, and somehow you do not fit the image in question. And because you don't fit the image in question, guess what? They cannot go there with you. If you force it, things will not work out. Instead, you have to create your own image of the person you want to marry, not individual, but the quality of a person. For me, in my memory, when I was playing that picture, it was this woman who was very charming, kind, social, because I grew up a very social person. Every person I spoke to, I didn't judge whether that person is a higher class or lower class. No matter who they are, I am having a conversation if they respect me. And today, this is how I see life. So the woman that I was talking to in my mind, it was a woman who was social, kind, and have great value about herself and the parents. Because I respected my parents. I have so much aspiration and admiration for them. They grew up as farmers' kids in villages in East Africa, Tanzania. So they grew up in a place far different from how they raised me. For that work, I have so much appreciation and respect that they came up from nothing and gave me everything. So for that, I was like, if I marry somebody, they have to be somebody who also appreciate their family, their kids, and everything. I mean, their brothers and siblings and their parents. And my wife is just exactly all of that. But I created a picture. So those ladies that I couldn't marry, even though they have expressed their interest to be married with me, it wasn't because they were ugly. They were beautiful, in fact. It's just because they did not fit the picture I had created. Until the person who matched the picture showed up, I couldn't resist but give in. So don't get married because he's cute only, and not because he have a job. I mean, you can have a bunch of reasons, but are you bringing that value to it? Remember, the value aspect still remain. Joseph said, I know it's Egypt, I know they have grain, and I know they sell it. So if it's Egypt, there is grain, they sell it. In order for him to get that grain from Egypt and supply it to his family, guess what? He had to have the resources to buy. In an essence, he was bringing something into the deal. What are you bringing into the deal? So to know this person is, you must be able to know that you can bring that which you are seeking. And what do I mean? I have some clients like the lady I told you that she was struggling. She was bringing a value that relationship, there's nothing good will happen to relationship. So even though she entered into marriage 3 times before those marriages disappeared, but she had this assumption that nothing good will amount to a relationship. She wanted to have a marriage. She wanted to have a marriage that lasts, but she did not have the value consistent with that she want. I hope you're seeing here the relationship between the Jacob statement and how it relates to you. So today, if you're in a relationship that, let's say you've already crossed this bridge, you are married, and the relationship is not what you would have liked to have, I'm going to ask you the same question Jacob asked his son. What are you doing here? Why are you settling for less? And this is not a question that prompts you to leave the marriage. It prompts you to realign. That's the conversation of another day. But today, for those who have asked that question, how do you know he's the one? You know he's the one because you have the same value you can bring into a relationship. And value is not about, he's making this kind of money. Do I need to have to make the same amount of money? No. The value is not money you are looking for. You're looking for a relationship that will sustain you. A relationship that you'll be comfortable. You'll be recognized. You'll be loved, cherished, and supported. And if those are things that you are looking for, can you give those things back? In essence, be the person you want your partner to be. It's not about, I have a good job or I have a business. No. We're talking about these these elements of saying, I want an experience when I'm in a marriage. I want an experience where we can laugh, we can talk, we can just go out, hold hands, all of these things that you want. Not about, I want money. Yes, sustenance is important. I want a relationship, a marriage that we can afford life the way that we should live. It's okay. But the question comes, can you give back the same value? Can you give back laughter? Are you a person who's so serious, always like, you're always kind of, your face is just like this, and you want somebody to marry you who is always laughing and kind? You're not kind. How can you get kind from another? You're a person who is always mad, and you have this radical emotion. You start from 0 to 120 miles in just a second. And you want a person who is calmer? It's not going to work. You got to learn how to be calmer so you can bring about a calmness into your life. That's the essence of that story. And it's teaching us something very, very valuable when it comes to relationship. You know he's the one because he has the thing you are looking for, and you are also bringing to the table. Man, I love he's very sexy. Do you see yourself as sexy? Or you have devalue yourself? Oh, I am ugly, no man wants me, or that. Then how do you go for the sexy while you don't see yourself sexy? You see, I want somebody who loves themselves. Do you love yourself? And I'm not talking about putting a makeup, nice hair, buying nice clothes. To love yourself is to speak well about yourself, to think well about yourself. That is self-love, not the out things we do. You can give yourself all the amazing things. I have clients who are very, very wealthy, very extremely filthy wealthy, but they don't know how to love themselves. They buy all these things thinking they will satisfy, but inside they are empty. They are broke inside and they know it, but they are filthy rich outside with money, their bank account, their investment, their businesses, their jobs, until they discover to love themselves. They're like, oh my God, actually I can be with myself without a cell phone, without worrying about anything else, and I can be happy because they are speaking to themselves. So that's what I'm talking about. You can't ask for a person who is kind, but you don't know how to show kindness to yourself first. You're always berating yourself. Oh my God, I'm always a failure. Oh, things never work out for me. I'm terrible. I'm not good in relationship. So if you're saying that to yourself, you can't expect a man or a woman to speak kind words to you. That's the meaning of that statement where Jacob said he identified what Egypt he knows of, what they have, and in order to get what they have, what do you need to bring? He understood that. Not only that he understood that, he had the capacity to show up with what he need to bring on the table in order to get that which he's looking for. And today, if you say that's a woman, and this woman, man, like for instance, my wife loves to cook. She's kind and all that stuff. I had to learn to be kind to myself. I had to learn to be kind to myself. It took time because I had some experiences that were not kind. So those experiences kind of twisted my mind somehow. But meeting her and having a relationship with her and grew that relationship to a marriage, guess what? I had to learn how to be kind to myself, to speak nice, positive, even though it took me a while because I didn't have a teacher. And I didn't have this, what we have today, where you can just go into social media and get all the information you want. So there is important. So to summarize what we talked about, how do you know, when do you know it's time to get married? You know it's time to get married when there is a steering inside of you. Whether it's somebody told you, whether your parents, whether society, you say it's age, my age is going, when that steering is greater than the comfort you have. You've been comfortable as a single person. You've been comfortable just changing relationship because you don't want bond, you don't being tied down or anything else. You've been comfortable. But when that comfort level is no longer sustaining your joy, and there's a steering of a better experience in relationship, that steering, that urge, that desire, as long as it's greater than your comfort level, then guess what? That is the time to get married. And it doesn't matter who, maybe the person you are in with is saying no. Guess what? Don't worry about it because it makes no difference. Once you apply the formula that Jacob gives it to us, you have to identify the person now. So let's say you have a relationship that is not working and you want to get married and you have frustrated your partner for asking or giving hints of every kind. You've gone to the moon and find where you can write on the cloud and say, can you propose to me, or can we get married, whatever the case. And none of those worked. And the steering is still there. The question is, what are you doing there? Why are you doing there? Have you created the relationship you want in your mind? That's the first step. If the one that you have is not working, and when you're creating this, remember I talked about imaginary act that I created in my mind. I didn't say this is the woman or that's the man. No. You just got to say, I have this man or I have this woman. These are qualities and characteristics that that I am having in this marriage. He is kind, she is sexy, and all of that stuff. But as you are outlining these things, make sure you do a self-assessment. Am I also that person? I cannot ask for a man who is very handsome, very successful, very confident, and you sitting there as a woman who is broken. You berate yourself with negative things. Man, I am fat, I am this, I am ugly, nothing works for me, all of that stuff. And you say, but I like to have a man who is confident. You're not confident yourself. So you're not bringing value to a relationship. And if you end up marrying a man of that nature, they will dominate you. They will enslave you. They will treat you like garbage. And that's why people find them in those relationships, because there was an imbalance. You went for greater value, but you didn't bring any. You cannot get it. It doesn't work that way. That's a spiritual law. The value you want in a marriage, you must contain it within yourself first. That's the rule. The value you want in a marriage, you must sustain within yourself first. And how do you sustain it? Apply my 3I framework. Idealize, meaning that state the pain you are having, and the opposite is the ideal of that which you're missing. So if you said, man, I would love to have a relationship that there is connection, there is respect, there is intimacy, plenty of sex, and there is growth. And guess what? So that's what you've said. That's what the ideal. So 3I. So the first one, idealize. So you've idealized the relationship you want. Because we have to name exactly how Jacob was able to name it. What is it? So now we know what is it. You have to personalize it. You have to state yourself to be the person. Because if you're not the value you are looking for, you cannot get that which you are looking for. You might have the relationship, but it will be a terrible relationship. It's not the man, it's not the woman. It is the value you brought into the relationship. You're getting it back. The spiritual law does not lie. God is not a respecter of a person. That's why pastors and bishops and all kind of leaders in churches, they fall apart in their marriage. Not because they are bad people, because they did not bring the value that is consistent with their interest within those relationships. And if you're not bringing that value, it doesn't matter who you are, how educated, how wealthy, how successful you are. 27 years, we're going 20 years with my wife. Not because I am the lucky person, not because I'm smarter than you, not because I'm special, not because none of that. Because I recognize the value I wanted, and I exercise that value on myself. So me and my wife, when we got married, I had the value I brought in. I knew where Egypt is. I knew they have grain, and I knew they have it for sale. So I made sure that I had enough money to be able to buy the grain. The grain is a symbol of the characteristics that you're looking for. So name your characteristic, the quality. So the second I said is you're introducing. Now you become the thing that you've idealized. And you just don't become once. You have to repeat it. You have to iterate the last I. You have to repeat it over and over. And you want to learn a lot more about that formula. There's a bunch of video I have in YouTube that I'm actually keeping talking about that. It is both scientific framework, spiritual, and psychological, because it touches the three elements of transformation, of acquiring identity. People talk about manifestation. Those three I's touches each and every component in a systematic approach on how you can acquire new identity, how you can manifest that which you want, which is simply, you gotta create the value of who you are consistent to the value that you are looking for. You have to know your Egypt. What kind of a person you want to marry? What personality they need to have, so that you know that you have that qualities, and you don't go and buy them. You don't need to go to school to learn to be able to acquire them. You need to develop here mentally by assuming that you are the very person you want your partner to be. That is how you know when it's time to get married, and that's how you know whether this person is the right person to marry. If you have any questions, I would always encourage you, comment down, leave those questions, because I will be able to next time when I come up on this conversation, I would further elaborate to clarify if anything was not clear. And with all of that, I cannot go without saying thank you very much for joining, for tuning in, for listening. And if you've commented, you've liked, and whatever, I want to say thank you. Because I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing it for you. So even if it's 2, 3, 4 of you, it gives me courage to continue to show up and share the journey that I have gone through in terms of my relationship and how the things I've learned, so you do not have to make the same mistakes. It's a 27 years of knowledge I'm sharing with you that you can learn in brief moments like this, so you can go about and be better in your relationships. Until then, again, thank you. And I hope those 2 questions were properly answered. And again, if not, leave me some comments and I will do my best next time to be able to provide you with better information that will further allow you to better yourself in this journey. This is not a do-yourself kind of a situation. So always I have programs that I share. So if you put a comment there, I want to learn more, I will provide you some free resources to further enhance your journey. So until then, I hope to see you, or you can tune it next Thursday about the same time. But above all, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot to have this moment with you. And I appreciate for your willingness to learn, to listen and attempt to change and improve the quality of your life. Until then, I'll be back.